Hi, everyone. I'm Vicki Epler. I'm the president of Congress Park Neighbors RNO. Tonight is our members meeting for the first half an hour. This fulfills our requirement to the city to maintain our RNO status. This meeting is being recorded. Um, the purpose of this is to introduce you to all the board members. If you don't know us already, talk to you about what we've done over the last year and talk to you about what we hope to accomplish in the coming year. Arno started in Denver in the 70s, and by the 90s, they were registered by the Secretary of State, and Congress Park has been an Arno since that time. The role of an Arno is to be a conduit between the city and the neighborhoods to facilitate communication about city policy projects that are going on and hopefully give neighbors a voice to the city to express their views on policies and what's going on. The city holds RNOs to a very high expectation of disseminating information for them. We are a totally volunteer organization. We are funded by your dues. The city does not help us publish or maintain a website. These are things that take neighborhood volunteers to actualize. And again, we're not an HBO. We are a community of volunteers that can be very powerful thing if we all work together. Currently, our board has 4 members. I'm the president, Vicki Epler. Tom Conness is our secretary, as well as helping maintain our membership and distributing our newsletter. We have a quarterly newsletter we publish that involves 60 neighborhood volunteers that help us bring this to you. Wendy Moraski is our secretary, but she also publishes the paper, takes care of advertising, and the layout that brings the paper to you. And Maggie Price runs our website, our email blasts, and represents us on INC. Congress Park Neighbors is a member of INC, which is the inner neighborhood organization of all the RNOs in the city. We also are on the Neighborhood Advisory Committee at the Denver Botanic Gardens. I'm a volunteer there as well as Charlotte Redden. We're going to have an election here, and we're going to ask you to reelect the 4 board members. Myself, Maggie Price, Tom Conness, and Wendy Moraski. You'll receive a ballot after the 18th. Um, if you are a member in good standing, which means you've been a member for 90 days or longer. You'll have about a week. Yeah, about a week to respond with that ballot, and it will come by Survey Monkey. Um, over the next year, we have 6 meetings. We meet every other month, and we record those meetings, and we do them by Zoom. We would like to have a couple, at least, face-to-face meetings with neighbors as we used to do prior to um, COVID when we couldn't meet. Um, we had an ice cream social in August at Congress Park, and we also held our annual membership meeting in person and often had a pizza party. But to be able to do this or any of the other things that we do as an organization, we need 4 more volunteers. 4 people simply cannot deal with all of the things that are required to stage these events. So I'm going to ask the membership to step up where you can, even if it's just for a singular event that you could give your time for, um, member or not of the RNO. We'd like to know what you're concerned about and where you could help. So I'm going to make a list here of several things that we need help with. We need board members. If you're a member in good standing and you have an interest in a particular project, please reach out and contact us and we'll have a conversation. We need someone to do a crime report about what's going on and give us a report at our meetings. This could include going to the District 2 CAB meetings that are once a month at the District 2 station. We need someone to report on zoning applications that affect Congress Park and the surrounding area. BRT is coming and it's going to have an impact on what's happening in businesses over there, as well as new construction in Congress Park. We need someone to help with maintenance of our 2 kiosk boards where people can put up flyers, we have newsletters, and we make announcements. They're on 12th and Clayton and 12th and Madison. And we need somebody to go about once a month and tidy up and post things for us on those boards. We need membership support. If someone could help Tom with finding out new people moving to the neighborhood that we could contact, let him know about the resource of the RNO. There's a lot going on, and it would be helpful to get new people involved. We have open paper routes every time we publish a newsletter. Some are short, but just to volunteer even one time to say, let me cover that route for you would really be helpful. We have a lot of news we need to get out over the next year about BRT and a conservation overlay, and having volunteers to help us deliver that would be tremendous. Wendy needs help getting articles for the newsletter, following up on meetings at Teller, anything going on in the neighborhood. If you could give her an article or help her in any way, that's an area we need support. And finally, to organize social events. We would like very much to have more face-to-face neighborhood community meetings, whether we're talking about a particular issue or just having a social opportunity to meet your neighbors. But we can't do any of it unless we get our neighbors to step up and give us a hand. So please feel free to reach out with anything that you could help with. Um, I'm going to stop now. Does anyone have questions or issues they'd like to raise? No one? Well, tonight, Molly Smart from Doty is going to come and talk with us about how BRT is going to be impacting Congress Park between Josephine and Colorado Boulevard, specifically the area of Congress Park. Um, so she'll fill us in on that. The second large project that Congress Park Neighbors is recommending to the neighborhood is a conservation overlay. And we'll be reaching out over the next year in a variety of ways to make sure neighbors understand what this zoning change would mean. Essentially, it affects only new construction, and it's about the scale and um, architectural details of our neighborhood. Um, so that will be coming too. I want to welcome anyone that's a new member tonight and maybe hasn't been to a meeting before, and old neighbors who maybe haven't been for a while. Um, so our regular meeting's going to start at 7 o'clock. Um, does anyone have a particular issue over the next year that you would like for us to address?
I don't know if it's an issue, but I I think it's helpful to everyone to try to keep track of the all of the businesses that are in Congress Park and what's really going on, because it's always a topic of conversation with comings and goings of various businesses. And I don't know that we can help the businesses thrive, but it when we have vacancies, it feels feels empty. So,
Well,
We
that's very
just
true.
got an appeal, Charlotte,
pardon?
from Molly Smart, who's going to be here tonight to patronize businesses on Colfax.
They're going to be they're going to be hurting.
Yeah, and many have closed. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they just they see what's coming and
yeah.
both sides of Colfax. Vacancies are always bad for the neighborhood, as it were. So anyway, that's part of my concern, I guess, but also maybe opportunity lurks in there somewhere.
We do have the three, maybe four new businesses right around my block and Colfax. The Preston and James store moved from the middle of the 3000 block, no, middle of the 2900 block to the corner at the 3000 block. But she was gone for about, I don't know, a month. Then there's a new candy shop on the corner where the salon was,
Oh, really?
and there's a coffee and snacks shop called Mystic Blends next to that. And the
Really?
Goombas changed over to Pizza Cucina, I think it's called. So yeah, a lot of movement up there. And if we can vote with our dollars, like those businesses, let's support them.
Well, yeah, they can support us too as the
Hmm. Yeah.
getting some advertisement into the community,
Hmm.
but maybe they don't even know that there is such a thing as.
Well, these do because I've been there, but
Oh, okay.
yeah, we definitely need an advertising coordinator. Yes. So thank you for that great segue.
Okay. Sounds like you're already doing, some outreach there because I'm
Trying, but like you said, you can't keep up with all of it. And if
oh, there's
we
a
if we
lot.
could have a couple more volunteers to help with the newsletter, especially advertising coordination, that would be so wonderful. We
Hmm,
used to have one of those. We lost some volunteers during the pandemic, so trying to
still hard to
ramp
read.
back up.
Yep. Okay.
Maggie, do we have Molly Smart
He
here?
hasn't come in yet.
Hi, Victoria. My name is Marcy Loughran, and Molly Sharp actually helped set up the meeting, but I am here, and so is my colleague from the City and County of Denver, John Stewart, to
Okay.
about the Colfax BRT.
Would it be okay if we started, Maggie?
It's
So
up to you. I don't know how many people are going to come in at 7, but why not? Why
let's
not?
go ahead. Um, so these folks are here. They're going to give us an update specifically about what's going on currently on Colfax on the Congress Park edge. So, Marcy and Jonathan, I'm going to let you guys go ahead.
Great. Should we go ahead and just get started then?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for having us. We'll just do some quick introductions. My name is Marcy Loughran, and I am with the construction team, the CMGC, and doing construction communications and business engagement and outreach. And John, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hey, everybody. My name is Jonathan Stewart. Call me John. I'm the project director for the Colfax BRT project. I think this is my fourth time to speak to this group. So that feels kind of cool to me. I don't know. I think that's more than any other RNO I've talked to. So good to see y'all again.
Yeah, so I'll kick us off. We really appreciate you having us here, and we're happy to talk about construction, the Colfax BRT, as many times as you will have us. I'm guessing from this group, since John and some of the others maybe have been here multiple times, you guys are familiar with the East Colfax BRT project, or did you guys want me to talk a little bit about what the project is, or just kind of go into where we are right now?
I
I
think we've heard
think
the
you,
overview several times.
Okay.
yeah, I think if you could just go into what's happening now and what to expect over the next few weeks.
Absolutely. Well, construction has started. We've been underway for about 3 weeks now. We've started what we call site investigations and contractor mobilization, which we have initiated from Broadway and East Colfax, and we're all the way up to Race Street right now. And what that looks like is you'll see a fair amount of work happening along the corridor. Some of it is site investigation. So some of that's done by our contractor group, and some is done by third-party contractors such as Excel and other utility companies. And what they're doing there is those site investigations. So you'll see them popping holes, we call them boring holes, in the street, and we're really looking for what are we going to find when we enter into the roadway. Unforeseen conditions is kind of a big deal in the construction industry. If we know what we're getting into, then we can actually plan for it, and construction can go a lot smoother. If we run into things that we don't expect, then we have to kind of pause and look at what we're dealing with, and then create a plan to address those things. So site investigations is a really important early construction work that we start with. The other piece that you guys will be seeing if you have driven on Colfax to date is really the implementation of the new lane configurations. We've been adjusting the traffic lanes and reducing many of the lanes to one lane in each direction. That way we can create our work zones, and you can see sort of if you've driven the pathway serpentines a bit down Colfax going west to east, and that is allowing us to create work zones. And some of the serpentine look is because in some areas you're going to have a new BRT station, which are in the middle of the roadways. And so we're working our ways around and setting up all of those cones and those lane configurations. The other piece that you will see with that is we're doing new striping with those lane configurations, so it looks like you're supposed to be there normal, instead of when they kind of erase some of the the lane markers and such. So we've created so it looks more natural. We've also moved some temporary signals. We're covering the existing signals and have put up temporary signals. So again, as you're driving down, you have a stoplight in front of you. Again, that helps create some normalcy with these new traffic patterns. The other piece that you guys may have be seeing and experiencing is the signage and barriers. We're using cones and what we call barrels and candlesticks to really create those work zones, instead of using jersey barriers, which those are those concrete kind of delineators that you'll see in the middle of highways and things like that. Right now we're using cones and barrels because they allow some flexibility for some of those work zones, and what we need to do to get folks in and out of the work zones to do the work. So that allows us some flexibility. A lot of the thinking and the planning that we're doing too is really how can we be efficient in the work areas that we are, get in and do our work and move along the corridor. We know that the construction is an impact, and we want to be able to get in, do our work, and move along our way. So creating some of these work zones and creating them a little longer than maybe what you see. You won't see work in every work zone, but that is because we are, you're piggybacking work in those areas along the way. So crews, we get a lot of efficiencies when we are able to move the same crew from one work area to the next area. So again, those efficiencies create some good timing in that work again, so we can get in, get out, and get out of everybody's way. The other piece that people are experiencing, or you will see, is that a lot of the on-street parking is limited in certain areas. Because again, we have work zones. We're working with a lot of businesses in some of maybe the concert venues, for example, to create some loading zones. And areas where folks can pull over, where they can load in for a particular thing and get out of the way. Another piece with those work zones is we have dedicated bus pullout lanes. RTD is maintaining the 15 and the 15L buses. We have dedicated pullout lanes so they don't stop the traffic. And some of these bus stops, though, have been moved and adjusted based on where we are with the work and where we can set those temporary stations. And a lot of those temporary stations, we need to make sure are ADA accessible and spaced out along the corridor, so you don't have bus or 3 blocks or so waiting for those buses. So there was definitely some thought process into making sure we maintain that 15 and the 15L along the corridor. I do want to do a plug if anybody on this call does ride the RTD bus along the corridor. We encourage you to sign up for those service alerts. They do a great job with pushing out any station changes, and sometimes even station changes or intermittent services with weather delays and things like that. So signing up for those services or those updates through your cell phone, I think is a great piece. Right now, as I said, we started at Broadway, Pennsylvania, is where you're really going to start to see a lot of work, and then up to Race Court. And then specific to you all, you were talking to me about the impacts from Josephine and York all the way to Colorado specifically. So we plan on putting that section really starting at from York to about Colorado Boulevard into that phase 1 alignment that I was talking about, where we're going to reduce traffic to 1 lane in each direction. And we're going to go probably to Garfield starting the first of the year, so around January 1st. All of that is obviously dependent upon the weather and how we can, and the work that we can get in place, get it up there. We don't want to close off large areas if we're not doing the work in some of those areas. So that's kind of where we are from the impacts from York to Colorado. You'll start to see that at the beginning of the year. We also, so like January 6th, you'll start to see those traffic switches up to Garfield. And then about the middle of January, we really will anticipate that Josephine and York station work to get underway. And that's, some significant digging. We've got some utilities and some connections to go around there. Those areas, those work areas will likely be fenced off and definitely protected from traffic. And so that's where you'll see kind of maybe traffic will go around the station and then maybe serpentine a little bit as well. I can tell you from what we are experiencing, we really like to watch traffic patterns as we put them into place. It takes about 2 to 3 weeks for folks to have a real behavior change in how they're driving. And so that's what we've been monitoring for the last about 2 or 3 weeks, or how are people really responding to 1 lane in each direction, and how long do we have backups in certain areas, or are people understanding kind of where returning is? And actually people are starting to respond, I think this week in particular, really well, and traffic is moving along the corridor. It's not going 50, 60 miles an hour, and I don't think any of us wanted to do that anyway, but it's going at a pretty nice pace, and people are going down, and there's some normalcy, and definitely what we're seeing and what we're experiencing when we drive the corridor ourselves. That's the big piece of it. I think I can go into more detail on the actual work. Like there's the soil cell work that we're doing in the sidewalks. So when you see some sidewalk work happening, that is really, we're installing the new landscaping features. So we're installing additional trees along this corridor. But in order to do those, we do have to take a section of that sidewalk out in order to create the new soil cell that we put these trees in. If we don't create some of these natural or these little pockets for the trees, you get the roots that grow up and then they buckle your sidewalk. So we're really creating some sustainable systems for the trees. They create a little bit of an impact, but with that particular work, we're always going to maintain business access. And so we're working with each business individually. I think in phase one, in our first 2 weeks, we met with over 100 businesses, and in phases one, and we're in the middle right now of our segment 2 business outreach, talking to every single business owners. And before we're out there doing any of those sidewalk works, we're also making sure we're talking to them about access, ADA accessibility, and how traffic is going to go around. The other piece we are working on too is adding some additional wayfinding signage to help support these businesses. Some nice tall flag signs. We're actually in the design process right now for those, so people know that businesses are open, there is access, there's parking on the side streets. Some of these businesses have access to some lots kind of behind or even maybe a block away. So we're working closely on those pieces. Other work that you'll see is some deep utility work, some water line work, some wastewater work, which is what you're going to see in some of the intersections. And in order to get that work done, we are closing some intersections along the corridor. We get that work done though when we get out of the piece. So if you see some of the side supporting streets closed, they are closed to through traffic. That means local traffic can come in, you can still park, and you can get to your apartment, to your house, or to any of those back business lots. It's usually just at the intersection of Colfax and that particular street where some of that work is being done, and some of the signal and utility work there. So it's a variety of things that we're doing along the corridor. And we're continuing, and we'll be in your neck of the woods relatively soon. So I think I will stop there. John, anything to add? Anything I missed there? I know we have a couple of hands up.
Um,
I
I have
don't have anything to add, so go ahead, Vicky.
Thanks.
John, you're right after me. Marcy, back to the station at Josephine in New York. How long is the timeline to divert traffic? How long will that piece take?
Well, that's a bit of a tricky question, because the final configuration of East Colfax is one lane in each direction. So while maybe traffic is serpentine in a little, it will be in one lane now and beyond when the station and the BRT is active along the corridor.
So that'll be a permanent, okay.
Yeah, one lane in each direction. Where it will be, I mean, obviously the center running bus lane will be in the middle with dedicated bus lanes or stations in the middle, and your one lane will be on the sides. Right now it's a little bit different. But the one lane in each direction is permanent, if that's the right word.
Okay. John?
I'm just curious, following up on your question, Vicky. That station, York and Josephine, what's the plan for the York and Josephine traffic? I mean, when they intersect with Colfax during construction, what's happening?
Sorry, is it not working?
East High School, the rec center, those two intersections.
North-south.
So the intersections that are signaled and cross will continue to be signaled and cross. Is that your question? There's no change to your cross streets if at a signal area.
But during construction, because you were just talking earlier about the construction was going to take place at those two intersections, my question is that going to impede or affect traffic going north-south, which is already congested as all get out during the construction, not so much once the BRT that's a whole different subject.
Yeah.
But what are you guys doing for those types of intersections, as well as traffic on 13th, 14th, 16th, 17th, that is certainly going to be impacted for the next however many years with additional traffic during construction.
There are, John, did you want to cover the side streets or the supporting streets or parallel street study? Okay.
Yeah. So I will say that as far as York and Josephine, they will continue operating like they do currently, even during construction. So there might be some short-term lane closures in there to do some work, possibly even some overnight work because it's an arterial street and we do want to keep traffic moving through there. So we might have to do some night and weekend work. None is contemplated there right now that I'm aware of, but that might be a possibility. And then I think as far as 13th and 14th and 16th and 17th and also 18th, we're definitely monitoring traffic there. Dottie is working on an implementation plan to deal with the ongoing problems related to speed and crashes on 13th and 14th. And I'm not sure when they're going to be finalizing that and going to the public, but I know that it will be, I think I would expect it to be this winter at some point that they'll be doing that. So I'm sure they'll be coming to this group to talk about that too. I'm not sure what they're proposing on those because we're pretty busy with the work on Colfax, but we are monitoring any kind of traffic impacts that may happen that's caused by the construction of the project.
So, I mean, this is something that you guys have been asked for quite some time. And I'm still hearing the same comment in terms of, well, that department is working on those issues. We're working on Colfax. So it doesn't seem like there's still any integration between the two departments. Is that correct?
I wouldn't say that's entirely correct, no, because we are working on the safety study and Colfax BRT did pay for that safety study, which looked at the crash data. One of the times I came to present to this group was to talk about that study. And we talked about gathering comments from the community. I think we received over 4,000 comments on those from a website that we had up for a number of months. And so that final plan is going to be coming out any day now. And then I think along with that plan, the Dottie Traffic Group is going to be working on an implementation plan for starting to implement the recommendations from that study. And so I don't have the information of what's in that study, but I can tell you I've been told that it's coming out very soon, and an implementation for that is coming out as well very soon. That's all the information that I've been told.
Charlotte, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was just going to, John mentioned several. I'm concerned about the pedestrian and bike traffic going north and south as all of this construction is up and down Colfax and the safety pedestrians, like students going to East High School in particular. They're going to be impacted for sure. And that's just a lot of kids, who are trying to come up from Congress Park to go to East High School. That's hang around. You see all of that. Some of them are in cars, others are on foot, some are on bikes. So I guess my question would be: are you aware, and how are you planning to keep that safe?
Yeah, we're absolutely aware, and a pedestrian route has to be maintained at all times. So 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, there has to be a safe pedestrian route to get to both all the businesses, also to get across the street to get to East High School, for example. Absolutely. And a big reason for this project is to improve the safety for pedestrians there. I don't know if you're aware, but 11 pedestrians died on Colfax last year, just in the stretch that we're working on. 11. It's pretty dangerous road. And so we're definitely being very mindful of that. And yeah, if any kind of problems come up, we have a team looking at that, making sure that we're holding the contractor accountable, that they have that pedestrian route and have it marked and identified so that there's a safe route for people to both get to school and also to get to the businesses along this roadway too.
Yes, you do see a lot of bicyclists even going to Sprouts from Congress Park across Colfax up to Sprouts. I do, there's always that. And the other comment that, again, you can say that traffic is moving well. That might mean traffic is being diverted off of Colfax onto our parallel streets, which do include 12th. So I've advocated that that is also a concern, not just 13th and 14th, because people do go down 12th, and there's that can't be ignored. I mean, there's more traffic on 12th than there is on 16th. I mean, just because 16th is not, yeah, it just, okay. And 12th is designated as a bicycle lane, which adds a whole other level of complexity to moving, people trying to get away from Colfax and taking other routes through Congress Park, even though that's a bicycle lane, and so forth. So I'd like to suggest that you continue to monitor not just how well traffic is moving on Colfax, but also on these parallel streets that cut through, as people are now frustrated because there's only one lane on Colfax going whatever direction they're trying to go. And now they're trying to go faster on 14th or 13th to get to wherever they're trying to get, as well as 12th. So that is my request, that we not forget the impact that comes right smack through, the heart of North Congress Park.
And I thank you for that, Charlotte. I'm making regular trips up and down Colfax on some of this, but I will make an effort to drive those parallel streets as well, just to see what I observe as far as those habits and behaviors, and pay a little bit closer attention to that. So I appreciate you pointing that out, all of those streets. And I do want to add too that we are also in very close coordination with East High School and the principal and the leadership there, and preparing some very specific information to go out to the students and the families there, so that we can really help navigate everything. I do like the slower speeds on Colfax right now, quite honestly, around a school zone. So I'm hopeful, but I appreciate you bringing both of those up.
And I'm checking out 13th and 14th.
Good.
I can just so we don't have hard data from our consultants that are looking at that right now, but just observationally, I haven't noticed anything when I drive it. But I do drive those streets. I do take a trip out to 13th and back from 14th, and just check, or the opposite. I mean, sorry, but y'all know better than me. But anyway, I do that, and I haven't noticed anything, but I haven't gone like right at the peak of rush hour. So there is kind of, and that's what the safety study kind of indicated, is like, if you're going in the direction, like if you're headed east at 5 p.m. on the dot, or 5 to 5:30 p.m., that's when there's a good amount of traffic, a volume of cars, I mean, a high amount of cars. And then there's a less amount of cars other than those times. So I haven't done it right at that time yet, but I'm gonna tell you right now, I promise that I will do it, and I'll check it out. Okay.
Have fun.
Okay.
David, thank you. for waiting. It's your turn.
Wendy.
Okay.
Wendy's been her hands up for a while.
Wendy's ahead of me.
Oh, that's okay. I'm
Get
on
on
the
in there,
board, so
Wendy.
I always let the members go first. Go ahead.
Righty.
Sorry.
Jonathan, Marcy, thank you for joining us. And I've got like sort of three different kind of areas written down. Maybe I can shotgun through them fairly quickly. Um, Marcy, on the trees, provisions for irrigation, responsibility, post BRT, anything on the business improvement district as we come through on Bluebird. Is Bluebird going to be responsible for the irrigation or any of the maintenance?
Yes,
Yes.
I think I can talk about that actually.
Per normal. Okay, thank you, Jonathan.
Yeah. I've been working very closely with the Bluebird bid for years now.
Yeah.
I think we did just execute an intergovernmental agreement regarding the maintenance of those. And so the Bluebird bid will be in charge of doing the maintenance on the irrigation.
Okay, great. And then of course provisions I would assume down on the other end as well, as those are going in between here and Lincoln. That Colfax bid will assume those. And
yes, absolutely.
Do we have any orphan areas where they're not covered by a bid?
There,
I
man.
think that there are some areas that are being contemplated for stormwater treatment, and
Gotcha.
that ironically enough, they still have to be irrigated.
Ironically, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've kind of done the driving myself. I've been, commuting for, since the 70s and 80s back and forth I'm in South City Park, but I'm adjacent to y'all. And so I'm actually active in the Bluebird bid and South City Park Neighborhood Association and City Park friends and neighbors and so forth. But, and
Are you going to the happy hour?
Which one?
Well, I got an invite for one. I think it's next week.
Well, you have to send it to me. I don't know which one.
Okay.
I got to keep my calendar up to date. I don't want to miss a happy hour there, Jonathan. Let me get to my questions though. So driving past, I guess one of my thoughts, Marcy and Jonathan, I'm not sure which, is that we're flowing on Colfax. Because I've been driving it purposefully, and I'm sorry I'm adding to your incremental traffic count coming up and down Colfax, but we're separated so far with those big round cones. It feels like kind of a no man's land as you're going through those blocks, and that there seems to be kind of this barrier between, that the business has now been sort of sectioned off. It's like, the sort of crime scene, do not enter. And any thoughts about that? And then before, and I'll let you go after thinking like, hey, some signs like, hey, I'm open, and where the hell do I park? So anyway, I'll leave that with you. Sort of any thoughts?
I can take that. Yeah, I agree, because because I'm in the communication and I'm like, why is that work zone so large? They're like, well, we're coming in and we're doing blank, blank, blank in there. And some of those are in preparation and to do some utility work and then some station work. And so just a larger zone than you would anticipate. Like if you go over by Voodoo Donuts, they're pushed up a little bit more. So that's a little less of a zone. But I asked the same question, and those are in anticipation of the work and the amount of crews and the machinery that is going to be in some of those areas, because you also want to make sure the cone is a fine buffer, but it's not the end all be all buffer, and so you definitely want to have a little bit of space before, if you have a backhoe or something in there, so that somebody accidentally pulls in, that you're not creating some danger for the workers.
I think the cones will be reality. My thought is, how do we bridge that, and make it not so much of a crime scene, do not cross, and have you seen any early indicators yet, talking with the businesses on that end so that we kind of know what's coming this way?
Yes, I think talking to some of the businesses is that need for the additional wayfinding signage saying, I've got big signs in design right now that we are open come in. Don't be afraid. We're also, I think, actually, John and I have a meeting maybe tomorrow, looking at where we can ease up or ease some of the parking pinches in some of the areas. I don't know if this is the right words or verbiage to say, but there's some businesses or blocks that are landlocked, for lack of a better word, where they're not going to have any parking right now in front of their businesses, and then there isn't good parking or lots or anything in close proximity. So I kind of call those um, my landlocked folks that we're really trying to look at, and what are some options and opportunities. Can we create some one-off spaces for food delivery services or somebody to run in real quick, or how can we alleviate some of those? So, looking at some of the patterns and what the businesses are experiencing right now, David, we're looking at how we can support with some solutions. And right now, it's also it's trial and error. I think when we get up into your area and your section, we'll have some of those things, ideas, a little further along and figured out, and maybe implement them a little bit faster because we figure the patterns are gonna continue.
Yeah. I'm hoping we can maybe bend the arms over at the old Paradise Cleaner site, and get them to open up for some parking or something there. They talked about it at the last bid meeting
Oh, did
about
they?
potentially renting it to the bid, but it made me think the way that Argonaut mentioned it in the Life on Capitol Hill, because it was so funny. The Argonaut owner made a comment, and he's like, "Oh, I'm not worried at all." I know you're not, because you have that beautiful parking lot. It's the guitar shop and the barber shop in our area is gonna they don't have that. So anyway, I'll leave that there.
I'll add one thing onto that, if you don't mind too, is this is the record shop or the guitar shop?
Oh, just top of mind of the guitar.
Okay.
People like the guitar shop sitting on the alley there next to Mezcal. He's
Priest of Steel.
yeah, and he's gonna be,
Okay.
he's gonna be orphaned in there.
No, I don't want any orphans.
Well, there'll be a lot of them though, because we've got so many of those that are small storefront. They're going to be stuck on a block. They're going to lose their Colfax parking, and I know the phase is going to have to take that curbing away from them for a while. I don't know.
And that's what we're looking at for some of these solutions for what I call those landlocked businesses that don't have a lot of flexibility. So we're really right now looking at some of those. Also, some of the individual conversations that we're having businesses. So there was the record shop. They have the big record drop, a very specific weekend date where things go. And so we've, being able to work with our construction team and let's not impact during then, or we were able to avoid some of the Black Friday businesses and things like that, and working with Mary at Ace on the Facts, and when she gets her big deliveries and when her big business is gearing up for that. And so we're really trying to understand a lot more about the business instead of just their hours to try to help. And we do have, as part of our program team, a small business support team that is meeting with these small businesses, and we have small business toolkits that they're pushing out to folks. We're also been launching this Back the Facts campaign, really trying to get a movement of sorts to get people to visit these businesses. And once you do, and you take your selfie or something, enter to win some gift cards, $50 gift cards to some of these businesses, and trying to kind of push businesses or people back to these businesses with some incentives and things like that. So, but we're open to ideas too. So if this group is got anything, clever, and like you just said, looking at these businesses that don't have a lot of options, I think is a real priority.
Thank you. I think the reality, I saw the graphic in Life on the Hill. It really helped connect the dots for me for phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Phase 1's one side of the street, phase 2's the
limits
next,
people's
phase
talking
3's the
so
middle.
other people can talk.
Yeah, so anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wendy, thank you.
Sure. I just wanted to follow up on the comments that were Charlotte's comments before about how we really don't have an idea yet of what the impact of traffic is going to be in our neighborhoods that are adjacent to the Colfax project. So while I was driving on Colfax today, I happened to follow 3 cars who as soon as they saw the arrows on Colfax pointing them to one lane, turned off of Colfax and went south. And they turned on 14th. And then I thought I was being smart. I was going to turn on 12th. And then the car in front of me turned on 12th. So I went to 11th. So there's going to be an impact in the neighborhoods. And we already know that because you're taking away half of the driving lanes off of Colfax. You're trying to impose a mentality that people are going to leave their cars at home and ride the bus, and we're just not there yet. So you're going to have a lot of impact in the neighborhoods, and we don't have any measurement for that. We haven't heard any ideas about how you're going to mitigate that problem when it happens. So that, I think we're still asking that question years and years after we're supposed to have had this information. Any news?
Well, I think I already talked about it. Do you
We
recall?
have a study that still hasn't come out yet.
That's more or less the truth, yes.
Okay. That's not good service to your constituents.
I apologize.
I mean, not your fault if it's not your study.
We bought it for the project, but the approval and the release of it is not up to us. It's up to another group. And my understanding is that it's supposed to come out this winter.
Well,
Great.
hopefully that will be soon. Roger,
Yeah.
thank you for your patience. Go ahead.
Hi, yeah, thanks. Yeah, it'd be good just to monitor people's length of how much they talk and how many questions, so other people can join in. And then if you have more time, you can go back to some of those folks if they want to say more, just so people can everybody has time to chime in. It's a good way to monitor and manage.
Thanks,
public-
Roger. Do you have a
So-
question?
Yes, I do, of course. That's why my hands have been up and I've been waiting. So it does fall in line with what Wendy was bringing up. You kept mentioning monitoring. So obviously, long term, you say, well, there'll be less cars because the BRT will be in place. So the BRT will not be in place for many years. You'll be, you have reduced the volume, you have reduced the capacity of Colfax. So that volume and capacity will go to the streets adjacent that you've mentioned. So you said we'll monitor those streets, but so can you elaborate? You monitor, you see impacts, you see problems, you see traffic, you see crashes. What are you going to do to solve those problems? You're just going to look at them and monitor them and say, wow, that's nice. What is your plan for this construction project to fix those issues? And number two, what is your budget for Denver police officers enforcing issues on this construction project?
On 13th,
Any of the side streets, 13th, 14th, 16th, 17th. You're going to monitor. What do you do when you see issues? What is your implementation to fix those issues that you monitor and will see?
so far, the main issues that we're seeing is late at night, people racing. That's the main issue that I see. I know that there's high amounts of cars that take those side streets during rush hour as they try to get home. That's a problem that's not new. That's a long-standing problem. I understand that you're real frustrated by that, and I hear you. So when issues arise, I mean, basically what is the plan is when the safety study is released, there will also be an implementation plan for the recommendations of the safety study.
That's
And
not, you're not.
that's going to be happening this
problem
year.
through the construction. This is a construction generated issue because you can't go back to say there'll be less cars because we're going to have a bus, rapid transit. You're going to create these issues now. How are you going to fix these issues that your construction project is going to create? Are you going to have a budget for police to enforce?
We do not have a budget for police to enforce. We can
That's
only
a
make,
huge mistake, huge mistake.
that's not how it works. They don't take money from us. We can't work out a contract between two city departments. That's just not how the city works. So
Absolutely
we make the
done,
request
done
and then
all
they can
over.
either choose to do it
That
or
is
choose
not
not to do
accurate.
it.
Jonathan, that is not an accurate statement. I work in
It's
transport.
100% accurate.
That is not accurate. You can hire police to do enforcement as part of your budget.
Off-duty police, is that what you're talking about?
Yes. Yep.
Yes, you can hire off-duty police. We do not have budget to hire off-duty police to monitor speeding on 13th Avenue in the middle of the night. That's been
In
happening
the
for
middle
decades.
of the night. We're talking the issues are going to be generated in the middle of the night. The issues are going to be a rush hour and when you have the lane closures at certain areas. You're shirking your responsibility. That's a poor answer. Very
Well,
poor.
one thing I can also add, Roger, is that we have a task force with our first responders, and we meet with them at least at a minimum every month. We also have other touch points with them, and so we are all talking about what we're seeing and experiencing throughout these construction zones at a regular cadence. And so, our priority too is to make sure that our first responders, the police, fire, paramedics can also traverse down this corridor, and they're our thought partner in how we're watching these behaviors. And when we start to see these behaviors turn and go in different directions based on what the construction zones that we have in place are, we will take measures to address those as well. But right now, traffic is moving.
So nothing proactive. You're just going to make sure the ambulance gets to that individual that got hit by a car on Colfax, that road is open for him. So nothing proactive.
I think our conversations are proactive.
Roger,
But
thank you
we will
for
see.
your remarks. Maggie, did you have a question?
I'm concerned about the parking situation that's going to result of this. Those of us living on the adjacent streets from East Colfax, 13th, 14th, and those of us who are forced to park on street. I'm curious as to what the spillover is going to be from the businesses who also don't have any parking. So as yet, we haven't been offered any kind of permitting. We've gone to a few meetings that have to do with it, but nothing firm. So that's making some of us a little nervous of coming home in the middle of the night and not being able to find a parking spot that's close by. And I'm not asking to be parking directly in my house, but I would like to be able to park at least within the block. We've had a lot of crime lately along these side streets. It's something that we can't ignore, and it's becoming more and more violent. I live on an alley, and I see what happens on those alley streets. I'm paying to light that alley because the city isn't. And those are the end of my comments. Thank you for listening.
John,
Thank you, Maggie. Yeah. What's up, Vicky?
no, John Hindeman. He had his
Oh.
hand up, but thank you.
I have another question about something that really just kind of came up recently, and that's the whole application and I think approval for the noise variance for overnight work. And I don't think that was ever mentioned during the community presentations historically. But can you talk a little bit more about that? And if there's a cap on the decibel rating that's been set?
And I can share the screen. I have a visual that I can share that. And why it was not brought up earlier is with the construction team being brought on board and looking at some of the scopes of work and some of the work that might be really impactful to the corridor and may even result in shutting down Colfax for a portion of time, really necessitated us wanting to do some work after hours or in the evenings. And those are really reduced to three main pieces of work. So it's not like we're going to be working every night along the corridor. There's only three scopes of work that we anticipate wanting and needing to do at night. And that is why we requested that noise variance. And it was really to be able to work beyond the 9 p.m. time. One of those scopes of work, John, is the installation of the arch on the new platforms. Not a noisy activity, but they're big arches and a crane has to come in and set those. And for the safety of everyone around, we do need to do probably, an hour closure or so, just depends on how long it takes to get those things screwed in. For safety, and doing that at night when there's very low traffic is one of the best things, best opportunities to do it. The other is some wastewater bypass pumping activity that's actually only at one intersection, and the bypass for that pumping to where and put in new utility there. But in order, before you can get that new utility done, you have to keep the other one moving, and so that's what that bypass piece is, like a heart bypass. But it has to run 24/7, and it's a hum basically. And that's probably about what did we think it was, 5-day activity, John? And we also would be putting in some shielding activities so that the shield on the other side of the machine, so any of those residents on the other side of the road would be able to see that. And then I will show you this. I can share that if you guys don't mind. I will share. You asked about the noise in particular. And this kind of helps you understand about where the noise and the decibels are. So here's the three activities. Am I sharing? I'm not sharing.
Yes.
Am I? Oh, I am?
You have the ability to share.
Am I actually sharing it
I don't
now?
see
Here we
it
go.
yet.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
hold on.
don't see it, but I gave you the
There we
ability
go.
to.
There it is. That must have been it. How about now?
Yes.
Okay, great. See here you can see what the three activities are: the bus station arches, the storm sewer pipes, and then the bypass operations. And again, these are not at every street and they're not all the time, and they're pretty minimal bands. But you can see here where these decibels around 71, 80, if you can see where those pieces are, where they lie in this chart, is in that very loud, even up to a little bit between this. So it's like a truck, it's like kind of city noise, hair dryer. I don't know if you put a hair dryer out on the street what that sounds like. I would say a truck is a little more accurate to that. But we also have some mitigation measures that we will be including with that. So some of those are these sound absorption blankets, making sure that we have, if there's any lighting that needs to support any of this work, that it is away from side streets and businesses, and it's really directed at some of this work. Oops, that's getting all funky. I don't think you guys can see that. Does that answer? Oh, here, I don't know if you can see. I know it's a little funky. Oh, geez, Louise. Not happy. Is here like the arches, that's a one-night activity. The installation and removal of the storm sewer pipes, 2 to 5 nights per location. And then the bypass, like I said, it's really only at one location, and that's up to 5 nights.
But if I'm not mistaken, wasn't the variance granted for multi-year
We were
4 years.
and along
to
the entire
2
corridor?
years.
It's not just phased for, say, track 1, track 2, track 3. So
Yes,
basically, this is in place for the whole project, no?
not the whole project. We received the request for 2 years, and then
So, okay.
we are
But-
required to do some monitoring and some notifications and a lot of things in that, and all of that information comes when we need to go back and have that reinstated for our final year of construction, but it is not for the whole time.
But your explanation kind of made it sound like, this is a one night deal here and another night deal here and 3 days or 3 nights over here. that seems not to rise to the need that you guys applied for? Or
Oh,
did you just prefer to get an open-ended variance so that you
It's
could have?
either a variance or not a variance. Really, it was about just wanting to do work at night and doing any work at night already because the threshold for noise, if you're doing work at night, is very low. So it was more about just trying to make it easier on the public, this project. And that's why we want to do some of this stuff at night. It's not really loud stuff.
And did your projections or your sound cones or metering, I assume it's distance related, right?
Mhm.
So the 75 decibels that you're talking about, what is the distance from the source that you're looking at for that? I'm just wondering what the impact area is.
I believe we were looking at from basically the center of the roadway to the edge of the right of way. So right where the storefronts are. Um, yeah, but you're right. It could affect somebody farther away more than it does somebody closer. Um, but we have to monitor it, and we will. And so we have mitigations available if it does become something disruptive. But like we said earlier, it is kind of just like spots here and there throughout the 10-mile length of the corridor. So it's like we don't expect to be in any one place longer than 5 nights.
Okay, thank you.
So, from the time in January when you start working in the Congress Park stretch till you're done, what is that timeline? Is that 2 years?
I mean, more or less, it's essentially 2 years. We might be, if we go ahead of schedule, we could do it as quickly as 18 months. But I'm preparing for 2 years personally.
And if a neighbor in Congress Park had a problem, what would be our point of contact? Would it be you, Jonathan, and Marcy that, and if someone, suppose the sound got unbearable, and are you offering a voucher for lodging? How are you how are you mitigating the impact to residents?
Yeah,
that's
Marcy.
Yep, that's a great question. So we have two levels of notifications that we're going to do before any night work starts, and we're going to do that at least 7 days in advance of us doing any work. So you'll get a notification that the work is happening. So folks are aware, you know, you don't want to be like, what is happening over here? And then there's another section depending on who is in the specific enterprise zone, so to speak. And for those individuals, we will be offering hotel vouchers should they want to take advantage of those. And
Okay.
I am your main point of contact for construction impacts, communications, complaints, compliments, issues, anything you guys would like.
Well, I mean, we also, in case Marcy's on vacation or something, we also have a hotline that's managed by a team of people and an email address. I wonder, Marcy, if you have that info
I do.
available.
Yeah, and I
Okay.
can put them in the chat. And if you wanted to share that with your membership, Victoria, or any of your neighbors,
That'd be great.
yeah.
Yeah.
That would
But
be great.
you can
And
always get a hold of either me or Marcy too. It's just sometimes we're not in the office that day or something is all.
Well, as you know, we're very anxious for that safety study. So
Hmm.
I'm hoping when it's revealed, and everyone's frustrations apparent. It's been a topic since the BRT came up, and rightfully so. Um, we already have a lot of expectation of what can happen on our streets. Parking, our garbage is put there, recycle, large item, as well as bikes and kids and pets. So that is a very pivotal piece. Does anyone else have more questions for them tonight? Obviously, I think we'll be talking with you again. Thank you for your time tonight. It's a big project with a big impact. And I would emphasize with everyone again, it's not just 13th and 14th, it's also 12th and all the parallel streets. I mean, perpendicular side streets as well. If no one has any more questions, I'm going to wind up this meeting. Remind everyone that SurveyMonkey will send you your ballot to vote on board. And there's a post on our website about the volunteer positions that we're hoping neighbors will step up for. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you, Jonathan and Marcy, and all the neighbors that participated in questions tonight. Happy holidays, everyone, and we will see you again in February. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Vicki. Good meeting.
Thanks, Vicki.